Welcome to Raw Take, everyone, the Lifeline to your unfiltered media experience. Before we start the show, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're on Facebook, like, comment, and share. I'm your host, Gian Thomas, and this is my co-host, Archie, and this is the Monday live stream. And we have special guest, organizer for the Texas Organizing Project, Mr. Carvel Bowens. And today he'll be talking about activism is more than just a word. But first, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, Carvel.
Yeah, I'm just a young guy, out here from the country originally in rural East Texas. And now, I'm living in Dallas, trying to do some organizing up here around different issue-based campaigns, things dealing with criminal justice, education, healthcare, all like that, but being directly there in the community. So, just wanted to make sure to be out there touching the people. Did a little bit of political organizing originally, but it wasn't, it got me caught up in the bureaucracy, and I wanted to actually be out there in the streets. So,
Exactly. And that's one of the things that we talk about heavily on the show. We talk about being active and not just being involved in politically. You have to be organizing your community. You have to be involved in your community. You have to have your face out there present, because at the end of the day, as we have seen a lot of times, these politicians aren't coming to help us. So we have to take it upon ourselves as community leaders, as activists, to gather resources together and try and make an impact ourselves.
yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that's the thing about it. You got to get the people involved. If you don't have the people involved, then the people that hold office, they won't pay any attention. They'll look at just the blocks of people that vote, and then they'll make sure to appease them, and that'll be it. And then they'll squander the other money, or put it in reserves for other things that don't even matter a hill of beans for you or I.
Yeah, exactly. So, Carvel, tell us a little bit about your activism work in Dallas, the activism work that you're doing with TOP, some of the, just go into some detail.
Yeah, Texas Organizing Project. So, it was started off down in Harris County, spread to Dallas County, and then now is in Bexar County, where San Antonio is at, and networking with neighboring counties to kind of work out throughout the metroplexes and other key counties to kind of make a change for Black and Brown people in, Texas specifically. So, it's something that's specific to our region. It's something that, kind of takes in our own ideology, I feel. So, like, this is me living this out. I'm living in the moment right now, organizing out here in Dallas County. I'm from East Texas. There's not a lot of Black people in power in East Texas. So,
Mhm.
I came to and I found this network, this organization. It was something that was working on policy change. And honestly, I mean, this is where we have to start at. We want to go out there and jump in the streets, but the real change comes with litigation. So we see how litigation is affecting our lives now. And, we just got to make sure that we're being active so we're recognized.
Exactly. And you said something very important there. It's about policy. And that's why it's good to get the input from the community, because a lot of times when policy is formed, it is absent-minded of the true constituents who politicians are governing on. And so we have to get into the meat and potatoes of policy. It has to be uh, I mean, we just have to go into detail, and it's so critical that we get the right policy out there that looks like and that's going to govern for the disenfranchised and basically your community.
Yeah, most definitely. Disenfranchisement is one of the tools to immobilize us. That's the thing about it. We got to understand that they wouldn't be trying to strike down our vote so hard if it wasn't worth anything. And I know I sound like one of the older generation harping on the vote, but it's something that I had to learn myself. Of course,
Yeah.
everybody wants to, live in the moment, jump out there reactionary, with the emotions showing. But the thing about it is, it's like if we want to see something different, we got to move different and we got to
Exactly.
immobilize everybody. So I mean, it is what it is. I don't really like the structure the way it is. I wish there were ways that we can change it up and just have a better utopia. These United States of America, but of course we know that it's built on racism, which fuels capitalism,
Exactly.
fascism,
Exactly.
everything, sexism, the things that keep certain marginalized communities down. So, white supremacy can hail, so
Exactly. Exactly. And it's all about challenging it's all about challenging the system and fighting to make it better, fighting to make it more representative. Uh what I know you said you talked about some of the campaigns that you worked on. What was something that y'all really got into that at top?
well, I mean, it's been things as small as getting, the cost of calls in the county jail lowered from almost a quarter a minute on some calls to a penny a minute across the board,
Wow.
with the company Securus. That seems like a minor thing, but when you're talking about somebody going to jail, you're talking about impacting the whole family. That person may have children, that person may have elderly parents or whomever, loved ones that need them, and they need to be in contact with them. And so, that's it's pretty much pimping our poverty. But
Yes.
with the bail system, of course, we've done a lot more with that. We've actually had a bail project to where we were bailing out people who were held in county jail for just minor offenses, misdemeanors, low-level felonies. A lot of these possession charges that we see, I mean, we know what that is. The war on drugs, war on black people from the 80s, 90s, when the gang banging got hot, they were trying to attack, but they created those environments. They created those neighborhoods that were prone to do that. And so they didn't want to address the root issue. So they just put on a facade of we're going to tackle this with,
Yeah.
policing and all that. So
Yeah, and that's when they wrote the '94 crime bill, and they effectively destroyed a lot of black families. When you look at like the consumption of marijuana to black and white, it's actually I think actually white people consume marijuana either it's the same or white people consume it
yeah,
more than us, and but we are more penalized, and just that notion out there, that fact that is out there, that just goes to show how racist the system is. You
exactly.
have these families, in Colorado and all across the country making big bucks off of this, but you've effectively destroyed black families for generations because they were doing the same thing effectively. And it's just that's why we have to expunge cases. I mean, it's and what y'all are doing at top, raise lowering the that cost, even that is just so effective. Any kind of work that we're trying to help more marginalized people is effective, but even that, because you don't understand, those calls become very expensive. Then
Yeah.
they tackle all these costs on the back end with those fees. It's just it's crazy, it's outrageous.
And even more to that, that's just some of the minor things that we've done directly to impact people in the situation, but more towards the policy change. We got DA Crusoe elected here in Dallas County, which
Okay.
is one of the most progressive DAs in Texas right now. He's not prosecuting theft. He's not prosecuting and lower level
Yeah.
theft. Excuse me. He's not prosecuting the marijuana possession. He's not prosecuting some of the lower controlled substance possessions. But we're trying to push for the whole cite and release, agenda that they have. It's like 7 different charges. You have other higher level possession charges that are included in there, and then a couple other charges as well. But things that people who just need help probably instead of
Yeah.
just incarceration. So he understands that. We got about probably about a slate of about 5 or 6 DAs like that across the state now that we've all helped to get. I mean, our organizations have helped to get all of them, elected in. So I mean, the thing about it is like that's part of the agenda too. Like that's part of making sure that we have people in place that can push the legislation we want. Of course, the DA can only do so much, over
Mhm.
prosecution, things like that. But then you have other people not having to go to jail. If we push cite and release, they might have that police interaction, but at least they may not have to go into the courts, into the, I mean, excuse me, into the jail and all like that. So I mean, it's just different things. And then hopefully we're trying to push more things with the DA. We helped get out Ben Spencer. That was a big case here in Texas. This man was put in jail for life for for a murder that there was no evidence against him for. Because there was an agenda put out there. Even people like Ross Perot had money backing to make sure he stayed in jail. The victim was actually the child of someone who worked for Ross Perot. So we all know Ross Perot here in Texas, an old figurehead that, I mean, not more than a figurehead, but, a political player that was actually shaking and baking and making things move. So, I mean, if that person wants to see you behind bars, the system will make sure you're behind bars. But we've gotten Ben Spencer out after 34 years. So that's a blessing there. But he's still in the system where he has to actually be released officially by the Court of Criminal Appeals. And and it's not even a release. It's a chance for him to have a new trial. They still want him to be tried, but the DA is gonna, he's gonna shut that down. So
and that's so important that we get people in power so we can start because at the end of the day we could do activism work morning, noon, and night. If we do not take control of these positions of power, then we will never ever get anything enacted. We will never ever get people the real justice that they need. And so that's one of the things I really I like about TOP, them helping get progressive candidates, them helping get people that are fighting for the right policy that look like us, just chucking all the marks on the box, because we need those things, because like I said, activism work is great and it's beautiful and it's what's needed, because it pushes the meter. But at the end of the day, if we don't take these positions of power, if we don't take control of these institutions, then it's just all for nothing. And so it's paramount. Yeah. And we've been having some technical difficulties, but my co-host is back. We're glad to have you back, Archie.
Man, I was in limbo for a while. I was able to hear y'all, but y'all couldn't see or hear me.
Well, we're glad to have you back, man.
Oh
yeah. Yeah.
So, Carl. Go ahead. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I was just going to speak to real quick before Archie came in, what you were saying about, really having people in the movement. The thing about it is, going back to the older generation, you had MLK that, he had a real good issue to get people polarized around integration. That was touching everybody on a day-to-day basis. Nobody was avoiding integration. So it's easy to see a lot of people out in the street when you have a situation that's touching everybody. Today, we got police brutality as the big issue, but a lot of people have disconnected and they don't see it touching them. And I'm talking about our people, Black people. You got Black people like, I live in this neighborhood, I live this certain way, I don't have to worry about the police, all like that. When in actuality, every Black person does have to worry about the police. Exactly. But the thing about it is, if we don't all see ourselves connected, if we don't see how the policing system came from slavery, how mass incarceration is the new slavery, still upheld by the 13th Amendment, all like that, if people don't make that connection across the board, our communities across the board, then we'll never see the people in the streets or mobilizing and organizing like what MLK had, and, Dr. Abernathy and, SNCC and all of them, everybody, John Lewis, I'm just shouting out, ancestors, everybody.
Yeah. And it's paramount that they understand that, like any given day, you can be like, your money, your status, if that cop does not recognize you, you go get treated like a Black person. That's no matter your money or anything, you're gonna have to show. You have to start calling people to get them off you. And even sometimes that doesn't work, because at the end of the day, you are Black. And that's what, like, a lot of people don't understand. And even a lot of Black people don't understand. We are second-class citizens in America, but America doesn't like to call it that. America likes to, romanticize it and make it all up and try and make it pretty, but we are basically second-class citizens. I mean, just think back 60, 50 years ago, we was fighting to be equal, to have equal access to resources, to have people, have our own people be able to, go in certain places without us getting our head beaten over. I mean, that my grandmother was involved in that fight. Our grandparents was involved in that fight. That was not that long ago. And it's, America, I posted this meme the other day. America can never learn from its history because it doesn't show its true history. And it never shows its true history because it's bad. And it is bad, but that's how you grow. That's how you make things better, because you look at the past and you say, damn, I'm going to do better now. I'm going to change some stuff. But you don't hide it and force it down, and that's how you had the reemergence of Trump and all the racist and bigoted things that he ran on. It's asinine just how we think if we hide history and like it won't repeat itself.
Yeah, it's living it out every day. It's not even repeating. It's just still going on.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing about it. It hasn't stopped. Like. We made the headway, but then we didn't stay out there and stay organized. That's the thing about it. You got activists who jump out there on the issue, great advocates who want to speak up for people and all like that, but you don't have them coming out and organizing people. When you have somebody that throws a march, whether they're activists or not, they're called an organizer when they get a permit for a march, all like that, because you have to mobilize people and you're getting people together. So, I mean, that's the thing about it. If we're not coming together as a community with this capitalism today, everybody's talking about getting the bag. I understand money makes the world go around. You got to have it. You got to have finances to move. But that's in our community. We got to understand that there's more things important than just getting money, especially if we're getting it at the cost of our brothers and sisters in our own community, especially if we're doing, anything that's like selling ourselves over to other communities, assimilating, all like that. So, we won't ever get out of that second class citizenship unless we mobilize together and stand up and get true policy that'll help raise us up. But of course, people thought we already had affirmative action. All that stuff is over with, it's gone, all like that. But, look, I mean, you got generation gaps of like, some people are just now coming into wealth in their family. Like I had a generation before me that had a little change, like nothing much, like just regular jobs. But like, the Great Migration, you had a lot of people who went off and worked in factories and stuff like that, and might have got a little pension or something or whatever. But reparations is a real thing. Like, there's a penance to pay. Like, we never got compensated. Never. I mean, even with policy, we never got truly compensated. So I'm just throwing that out there,
As an organizer, so what do you think is a good way to get people to want to, join together and be organized? Because there's a lot of people, sadly to say, in the Black community that don't even care to know what's going on, don't care about the history, the true history. And on the other hand, there's a lot that does care, but for the ones that don't care, how do you go about organizing them?
I mean, sometimes you just gotta meet people where they're at. So I might could have a deep conversation with, you or Gian, but I might go down the street and knock on a brother's door, and he might come to the door smoking a blunt, be like, dude, what you want? And I'm like, well, I'm here to just make sure that you know about some of the issues that your neighbors, other brothers and sisters are fighting for right here on this block, on this street, like things that y'all didn't get money for from the city council that y'all was supposed to get money for, and they moved it over here for something else. And so, I mean, when you start jumping into the money, when you start jumping into the policies, like, look, did you know that they just passed this new ordinance in your neighborhood that they're about to be pulling people over who passed this marked spot right here more than twice? There's like these cruising ordinances that we're dealing with here in Dallas. That it's that same premise of that example I just used right there. Of course, it's to control sex trafficking in a highly prostitution area. But the thing about it is that can make anybody subject to be victim. You see a black person drive through a couple times in a car, you might just be prone to go ahead and pull them over, and they might not have nothing to do with the sex trafficking ring or anything like that. And then you find a little weed on them, or you may find a gun on them or something. We got advocates letting everybody tow guns, but how do y'all think they're going to treat black people who have a
Exactly.
gun? It's not, everything is not for us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what we got to remember. And so,
Well,
yeah,
that was one of the things I said when they passed that gun legislation. Like that wasn't for us. That was a law for people who don't really look like black or Hispanic. It's because it's just real. Like because if we have a gun, we're a threat. We are. It's just automatic. And there has been stories of there was I think it was in Georgia. There was a shooting at a mall, and this guy who was in the military. He was a military vet. At home, had a shooting. He had his gun. The cops shot him, killed him. The good guy with a gun. He was a black man. They heard a shooting. They killed him. It never works. That good guy with the gun heroic story. It just never works.
Man, it seems like it's almost like it seems like it's almost like a device, man, just set up for us to fall. For it to go against us. Especially when you have situations like that where the cops are just shooting the guy because he's black, because they was called out or whatever for a shooting. It's like the whole thing is like a plot to go against the minorities, and that's just it's scary, man. Now everybody can pack a gun, so it's basically the Wild Wild West. But it's more like it's open season on the black community.
Hey,
You
I'm
know,
telling you, Greg Abbott,
oh,
Greg Abbott is
like this
trying to
guy.
be, he's trying to be worse than Trump. He's trying to out Trump Trump. He like literally. He's trying to show that he is down for the good old brothers better than any guy from New York could be. You
But
know what
he's
I'm
doing a good
saying?
job at it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean that's the thing about it. Like, those state troopers, we saw how the state troopers treated the brothers and sisters coming from Haiti. They riding on horseback, pretending that they're, chasing down some slaves or whatever kind of sick stuff they got going on in their minds. That's the thing about it. Those same state troopers got sicked on me. Greg Abbott sent those state troopers up here during the George Floyd protest to Dallas because we had a lot of people mobilized in the street. He sent them up here. They let us go onto a bridge. They let us walk up onto the bridge. And when we all got up on there, they did us like Selma, man. They had us cornered off. They had us blocked off from the front. We walked into them before we got off on the other end. So they proceeded. They marched forward on us. People were scared, backing up, had their hands up. Some people were laying down. Then they kettled us, and they had people coming in from the back, and they squashed us in. This is during COVID last year, and they squashed us in on each other, and they started hitting us with tear gas, all this stuff. I almost fell off the side of the bridge because I was up there in the front. You know what I'm saying? I'm protesting and stuff. I get hit with some tear gas or whatever it is, smoke. Well, I don't know. That was one of the technicalities of what the chemical was they used or whatever, but whatnot. But anyway, I went to the side of the bridge to try to brace myself and almost fell over the bridge. So that's why that is so dangerous. You can't even do those types of procedures. That violates international law. So we're still trying to seek like some sort of penance and some sort of like charges for that here in Dallas right now.
Hmm.
I've heard so many horror stories, and I'm sorry that had to happen to you, brother. Like, and like you said, you can't even use tear gas in war. You can't even use that on your enemies in the theater of war, but you're using that on your own citizens. And so many people do not understand. We have moved the military industrial complex here at home, and we are using the same tactics that we use all across the world. We are now using it on our own civilians, on our own people, because they are fighting. They are standing up to the fascism. I mean, people don't understand. Like, America is we are fascist like. we are such a fascist state. We just have a little bit more freedom. But as soon as you try to exercise that freedom, they come down on you with the hammer because
Yep.
they don't want the system to be fixed. They don't want black and brown representation. They don't want the money to stop flowing to them. They want to keep the system like it is. They want to keep the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah. Policing is all based on controlling black and brown bodies. That's what it's all based on. You get up there and you start messing with you mess with a rich person's property, your ass is out of there. If you mess with anything that's like part of the structure, then yeah, they're gonna bring the hammer down on you, like you said. So I mean that they show where their interests lie. The city council, all these other people who create these budgets, they show where their interests lie when they put 60% of the budget into the police department. What you got, other housing programs that barely have $1.5 million, couple $1 million in them, and then you have almost $600 million in the police department. And when the ARPA funds and the CARES funds came from when Trump sent us the money down here last year, and when Biden sent the money this year to the cities down here in Texas, you know what that money went towards? It went towards public safety, mainly to policing, a little bit to the fire department. Nothing relief.
You there, Carvel?
Yeah, did I cut out?
Yeah, you kind of cut out. Can you say that last part again? You was talking about how they sent the money down here to Texas. And you were talking about how it went to the police and a little bit to the fire departments.
Yeah, they put it in public safety. That money was supposed to go directly to the people for relief. They could have did anything from stimulus checks here in the city directly for people that maybe were on assistance or some kind of vetting process. They chose not to do that. They could have put other programs out there. They could have added more into the homeless program during COVID. They could have added more into any program. They could have added more into trash pickup, but they only put it into police and fire department. The fire department, of course, we want them fully funded. Police is just a toy for white supremacy, for the system. Most of the time when they're called out for something, they don't respond on time. Half the time they don't come. And then when they do come, if you're the wrong race, you may end up being a victim of them. So it's not working for us. And we could better use money for programs to alleviate the crime.
Exactly.
Get rid of the poverty in our neighborhoods, and you might not see as much crime. Things like that. That's what the fight is about now.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times when people talk about defund the police, that's mainly what they're talking about. They're talking about reallocating sources to the community because, like you said, the cops show up there late. Sometimes they don't show up there at all. I had a break-in at my house 4 years ago. I'm still waiting on the cops to come to my house to take up a report. It's been 4 years. It's probably been longer than that. I mean, that is asinine. We went up to the police station. Hey, someone broke into our house. They took this, and this. Okay, we're gonna send somebody out. Been waiting 4 years. That is crazy. And let there have been let there have been Becky or Miss Joyce or somebody like that. Cops would have been there right there. Oh, what happened? That black man right there. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just hate the way the system is, and it just enrages me how it's like that. And like you said, the police is just a toy for fascism and racism. And they do some work, but it's always after the fact. You call during a break-in, and it's gonna take them a while. I know for me, it took a while. So,
and just to lay it out there, because I don't know what type of viewers y'all have. So, we're not up here bashing the police, but when you got 60% of the budget in policing, you could maybe cut down some of it, trim the fat a little bit. What if you took 200 million of that and put it directly into those communities of high crime or supposed high crime, and see what changes may happen. You may not need as many police if you got rid of the root causes of what caused it, right? The poverty, the homelessness, unemployment itself. Come on now, like people are stealing because they don't have money. People are robbing
Exactly.
because they don't have money. You gotta, they know what they want. They know what greases their palm. That money helps them think a lot better. So why don't you put money in the neighborhood, help those people think a lot better? It's those types of things. But going to the
Exactly.
police, like just so your viewers will know, you know, policing, they are reactionary. They come out after something has happened.
Exactly.
Oftentimes they don't really stop crime. They
Mm,
may be on the right place at the right time and make a robber or a jacker kind of run off because they see the police or something. May happen. But the thing about it is, it's not really a high percentage of what their work is. And if police were more focused on investigating and detective work and had police for those situations, things like that, then maybe they wouldn't have as much violent crime as they talk about all the time. That's what they talk about now. Violent crime is going up. Violent crime is going up. Well, yeah, you're allowing it to go up because you got people, got a member of TOP right now who went and tried to bear witness on a murderer that was, killing people out there on the street. They didn't want to take the time to listen to her, take her testimony, anything like that. They had some kind of back case where they were working it back into something else and they didn't want to deal with it that manner. And then somebody, actually a detective, went in and tried to pull some information out of the guy anyway and said, yeah, we got such and such, which I don't want to say his name, but it was our member's son. He was the boy, knew the boy, and so they named him as a witness. And they killed that boy a week later. They put the hit out from jail after that detective did that, and they killed the boy about a week later. Shot him 23 times, execution style, at an elementary school.
Wow.
So
So, with the reallocation of the funds, putting funding where it needs to go in the communities, into different programs, help programs. Um, this is something that we talk about on the show quite often. So, my question to you is, do you think that that would actually ever happen?
well, it would have to happen in the cities first. If we're talking about Texas and across the nation, it'd have to happen in the larger cities first. Then it have to trickle down. We have to get changes like getting the DA on boards, like what we had happen here. We got to get judges on board with not prosecuting all this stuff, diversion programs, getting people in the help. And then once they see people actually changing, then they will have no choice but to pull back some of that money they're putting into policing. Of course, we're not going to really see it go down as long as white supremacy is on the roll. And I
So
know that it's
that's
like,
the issue.
I mean, that's the thing about it. We have to organize. We have to come
Hmm.
together and we have to make it happen in certain blocks. Like if we can make it happen in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, then we could maybe kind of shift the state a little bit after that. It's
Hmm.
got to be done like that in other states, and then it make it reach on up to Washington D.C. I mean, but organizing starts locally and then grows
Hmm.
out big. So I mean, you have to focus on your community and your cities first.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to definitely make that change in your own backyard and then use that model around the state, shop that around, organize with different organizers. I mean just like myself, like I'm in Houston and Carvel is in Dallas, and we've been working for with each other over the past couple of months talking, and I've been sitting on some of the top
Yep.
meetings. And so that's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to organize within your state, within the different cities, within the different organizers. You have to build that community, you have to build those relationships, and you have to exchange ideas, see what works, see what other people are doing.
But
It's so
what
important.
one of the things, Gian, that I remember I said in a meeting, and one thing that I noticed in the meeting, I think you were in that meeting too, Carvel. I'm not sure, but um, a lot of the older politicians. They're not really down with like changing things up. They're seem like they're like stuck on doing things the same way, whether it work or not. And I think when it comes down to us organizing, we need to, of course, we need to organize, but we need to bridge that gap
Yeah.
between this set of people with this mind frame and this set of people with that mind frame. Because if those two different mind frames can't come together, then the organizers, how can it even work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially
Hey,
within when we're within the same party.
yeah, most
Exactly,
definitely.
exactly.
That's a great point, Archie. The thing about it is that is one of the things that you have to deal with. You know, a lot of times with the black community, it's usually a big rift between like, the elders and the younger people. So, the elder people, they feel that policing is good, especially with the way that we do have crime in our certain neighborhoods, they were like, well, we gotta have the police. So you have to meet people where they are. Again, I'll say that. And so I could talk to, Miss Johnson or whomever, and I can say, okay, Miss Johnson, I definitely understand why you want to feel protected. And, we do have some ideas to change up this community and protect it in different ways as well. Violence interrupters who are actually out there on the street, kind of like when police like used to be on the beat, I guess you could say, walking up and down the sidewalks and stuff. Some areas
Hmm.
that still have that, but instead of having a armed authority, you can have somebody who's recognized in the community as a help.
Yes.
So it's like, I'm not out here to throw you down on the ground and take you off to jail. I'm just trying to make sure everything is cool, and that people are doing right, that people are not harassing anybody. But of course, so, we could talk about abolition of police, but I wouldn't talk about abolition of police in a space where I'm really trying to reach an elder or someone who has that mindset, and especially dealing with these politicians these days. Because when they
Yeah.
become elected officials, they're part of the system, whether they
Yeah.
like it or not. They're inundated with, kind of the power plays that happen, in that setting. So, I mean, it is what it is. But, of course, in Dallas, y'all seen it. We have a couple of them that's had their palms grazed a little bit. So, and got caught up for it. But, I mean, it is what it is. So we have to meet people where they are. Okay, sir, you don't want to speak to, defunding the police. I can understand that. But I'm pretty sure you don't mind speaking up for your district about them receiving more money for, you know, homeless shelters or receiving more money for this or that. Can we just speak to that then? So
Yeah.
just have to make
Yeah.
it work.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why we have to focus on the policy because so much gets lost in the translation of a name. These names are just, just kind of like placeholders. And it doesn't necessarily always, go into detail what we're talking about because when you talk about defund the police, there's a lot of different parts. There's a lot of different moving parts to that. And so the name doesn't necessarily do it justice. It doesn't do the policy justice. And so that's why, it's important for us to have like meetings and seminars and all these different things to educate the community and let them know what we mean when we say defund the police or when we mean just Medicare for all or legalization of drugs and just things like that. Like we have to go into detail on what those policies mean so they can better understand it.
Yeah, I mean, the organizer has to make a connection with the community. It's relationship building. Like, that's what my job detail is. I have to build relationships within the community, meet people where they're at, let them know what we are doing. I try to polarize people with all the information of things that are going on, let them know how things are affecting them more than what they may see them affecting them as, and try to show them how they can be part of the vision to change it. So,
Yes.
that's what it's about.
So Carvel, I have a question. And we talked a lot about top, but what are some of what are some of the main goals that y'all are trying to get resolved and get done out here in Texas? if you had to, I guess, put a top 3 or top 5, what are some of those things that y'all are really trying to push hard to get implemented?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is with Right to Justice, that's our criminal justice reform campaign. And so the North Star of that is ending mass incarceration. So you got different points in the system where you can affect that. You know, you can affect it in the arresting part. You could affect it in the jailing part. You could affect it in the court system. You could affect it in the probation system and all of that and parole. And so, you know, we're trying to hit it from different ways, you know, dealing with the DA now, even with things like about conviction integrity, where we're trying to get more cases looked at, like Ben Spencer's, you know, trying to promote the DA to go be proactive. Don't wait for defense attorneys to bring a case to you for you to look at, but go back through the files now. Go back to those 80s and 90s. Go back to pre-DNA and stuff like that, and just see, like, especially like the people who are still sitting in jail right now from the 80s. Let's go peek at their file and see what evidence put them in there, just to make sure. You know, like, you know, little things like that. But then you have so many different things, you know, immigration. Of course, Black people are kind of concerned when it comes to immigration, but then we see situations with Black immigrants like the Haitians that were trying to come in. And we see how they got treated worse even than the Latinx folks and the Mexican folks that come across the border. You know, it was ridiculous. And so, I mean, you know, we have to think about all those issues. Healthcare, like you mentioned earlier, education. You know, we have even education as far as to the point of school to prison pipeline that we're dealing with in criminal justice reform, just for the simple fact that they're setting up young brothers and sisters to be criminals and criminal minded as youth by running them through a youth system and all like that. And so some people, you know, if you have heinous stuff that happens, you know, we had a school shooting here in Arlington that happened just days ago. But, you know, what about how the fact that person that did the shooting, they were bullied and beat up the day before? What about the intervention? What about reaching out to that child before they leave school that day to make sure they're good? What about having them come into the counselor and talking to them first thing off the bat that day before they just walk up in class? You know, you might have could have stopped it, you know, but people don't think like that.
Yeah, where was the prevention actions? I mean, because this incident happened on school, and you know it happened in front of people, and you know that could be embarrassing for a high school student. So you know anything was bound to happen, and I'm not condoning what happened, but
of course.
It's horrible that it happened, but what was the school doing? What preventative actions were they trying to do? What counseling actions were they trying to do? I mean, did this boy feel safe? I mean, because if you watch that video, he took a beating, and I mean, you should not go to school and get drugged and tossed into desks and stuff like that. I mean, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, most
definitely.
Most definitely cause and effect. And the thing about it is, I don't want to see any punitive measures taken out against the youth. Sometimes if a poor person gets themselves in this situation, you go to school, you shoot some other kids, of course you're going to meet some consequences for that. Just like you said, Archie, cause and effect. But the thing about it is, how can we affect those causes ahead of time? And it's like even the guy that did the bullying, maybe he should have received some kind of intervention. If he was in gangs and stuff, if he was known for being in gangs in school, maybe he should have been put in a setting where he got more intervention. He shouldn't even been in a setting where he could have been bullying people like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there right now, but just something to think about it. So if we start thinking like that, the system in this country has us, even as Black people, just thinking we deserve less, thinking that we are less, thinking that, oh yeah, you gotta whoop that boy over there to make him get right. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And so we got to get out of that mindset.
Yeah. And it's shown in television every day. It's just such a control system. and people don't really understand what it is to be black in America. Just the constant things that we have to go through, the images on television. You can only be a rapper, a football player. You know, you can only make it if you got a mic in your hand or if you got a ball in your hand. It's just, you know, it's
It,
just
it
terrible what they do.
it looks like it's set up. You can make it any kind of way except in a corporate way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
Or being a doctor, or just, I mean, being an organizer, or I mean, just the abundance of things that you can do and that you can make it.
yeah.
yeah, we
The thing,
we do we definitely have to. I mean, things just has to change, and it's not going to change like you were saying earlier, Carver. It's not going to change if we can't organize. That's the first step is organizing. And I want to say something about the bully and everything too. The bully, I mean, even that's cause and effect, because who knows what the bully had, what happened with that bully before
yep.
they went into that taking those actions against another child. So, but when you think about it, what is a way that you can prevent something from happening before it happens? You have to, I don't really see how that could happen. Um, as
Well,
far as
I'm
like,
pretty sure there were signs of abuse. I'm pretty sure that this just didn't ignite over one day. Normally with situations like this, it's been building up, and it built up to that. I mean, I maybe I'm just speaking on my incidents in school, and because I had a couple of bullies, and that's how it kind of was. It always just kind of
mm,
built up to the big moment, and so
yeah,
yeah,
some of that comes from, home. What happens at home?
yeah, and what happens at home? That's a really great
You
point.
never know what that bully goes through when they leave the school,
He's
you
probably
know?
getting, that could be a situation that happens to him at home, and so he takes
Yeah,
that out on
take it out
other
on,
kids at school.
exactly,
I
exactly.
mean, that's most definitely true. There could be a number, and that's the thing about it. Like you said, Archie, like you can't prevent everything. Like it's gonna be it's not like a catch all that you put out there. But
Yeah,
going back to what Gian was saying, you can at least address those things that the signs are given for. If
Yeah,
yeah,
somebody's being bullied, then intervene with that child that's being bullied. Intervene with that child that's bullying somebody. See what they got
yeah,
going on. But none of it will happen, like to your point, unless community is built. That's the only way. Yeah, we've gotten away from community. Black people used to have to live in, strict community to make it in this country. We didn't have any
hmm,
choice but to live tight with other black people. We were forced to, and all like that. And even during slavery, like my fourth great grandfather, like he was even like an organizer himself. He used to think of different ways, like that he could talk the owner into like, well, if you give us this freedom right here, and let us get a little bit more rest right here or something like that, we can still make this happen for you, and we can be even, what I'm saying, you won't have to deal with our sickness, stuff like that. There was literally, manual text of this that's recorded down at the University of Austin. This in the memoirs of what is it, Dorney Finney. I'm messing the name up, but the owner's name was Julian Devereaux, and he had a father named John Devereaux. Julian Devereaux served in the sixth legislature of Texas, and my fourth great grandfather was his body servant, so he went to Austin with him. I'm just riding up under that white man, but he had the freedoms of carrying a gun in Texas as a slave. He had the freedoms of
wow,
selling a certain percentage of his cotton to white men in town and making money off of it. They have recorded texts where white men were coming by the plantation telling the owner, like, I promised Jesse I'll bring his money next week. You know what I'm saying? Don't put any action on me and stuff like that. Like this was happening during slavery here in Texas. It's a remarkable story, and hopefully it comes out more. But I mean, that community, they were creating slave communities and organizing even back during slavery. And so we have to get back to being community minded, or we will just assimilate in and we'll spread out. And then you'll have black people who live in white neighborhoods and they're not worried about black issues anymore. Then you'll have just a certain type of people living in one area that's deemed as black, and they'll push all sort of elements there that from poor environments and let those things happen and fester in those areas. And then you have gangs going on. You got young men getting in gangs. They're getting jumped in by the OGs. They're going to school, bullying people, all of that. When you can have violence interrupters, gang interventionists on the streets, all this different stuff, instead of just policing and throwing people down, throwing them in jail and shooting them. But I don't know, just throwing it out there.
There's better ways that we can do the system, that like instead of doing it the way that we're doing it. There's just so many ways that we can just try and do it, because it's not working. And to try something over and over again is and expecting a different result, that's insanity. And what we're doing is insane, because the black community is not faring out okay. The Hispanic community is not faring out okay. Even poor people in general are not faring out okay. And so it's just paramount that we change it, that we organize, that we come together, and that we see that as a whole together, that the system is against us all together. Because it's like I said earlier in the podcast, it's the haves versus the have-nots, and that's just really what it is at the end of the day.
And they want the have-nots to be the ones who are part of the supreme order or supreme family. So, and it goes back to white supremacy. I mean, fascism is just based on money, period. Like you said, war on poverty, haves or have-nots. But the whole thing is, it's like, if if you have a system that's working perfectly for one group of people, then maybe it's not insane. Maybe it is exactly working exactly like they want it to work. And that's what we got to realize, like you said, that it's not working for us. Yeah. And so we have to take power over. We can only take power politically. We can try to rise up and do some and get out there in the streets, but I don't think it's going to work out well for us as a whole. They'll mobilize the army against us if they have to. So
I mean, you saw what they did when we was marching for George Floyd, and you saw what they did for January 6th. Was two totally different images. I mean, they was ready for us. They let Uncle Billy up in the Capitol real easy.
Yeah, so, put their feet up.
Carver, I think
put his feet up.
I think when you said it's probably working, maybe it is working the way they want it to work. I think that's exactly what it is. It's working the way they want it to work, but it's not working for us. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to say, but that's what we're living with. It goes back to what Gian said about second-class citizenship. We don't want to think of ourselves like that. We want to think of ourselves as we made it and all like that. But, they only want you to proceed so far and then enjoy that for a couple of generations. Then maybe proceed just a little bit more and enjoy that for some generations. And then proceed a little bit. Hell, it'll be the end of the world before
before we see the equals.
Yeah, I mean, but we just gotta love on each other. I'm gonna leave it like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. We gotta love on each other, and we gotta fight. And I think that's the two most important things. And when I say fight, I don't mean get out there and start hitting people. I mean get out there and start organizing. Exactly. Start talking to people, start building those relationships. It's what we have to do, and we have to get more. We have to get our younger people involved. It's so important that we get the younger people involved, and the younger people, we have to talk to those old heads. We don't like it's hard to sometimes talk to the old heads. We don't like a lot of things that the old heads did, and the old heads don't like a lot of things that we're doing. But you know what? We're all fighting for change, and so You got to take from what they did and you got to build on it. That's
Yeah.
what we got to do.
Yeah, most definitely, and we are. You know, the thing about it is, we think that we're not connected to the movement. I mean, a lot of people who are really in the movement understand, but you know, a regular person may not realize that the same tactics that we take today are the same tactics that our elder generation took. You
Exactly.
know, we might just need to remind some of the elders, like remind them how they felt when they were our age, when they were out there. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They had that
Yeah.
fire and passion.
Yeah.
uh Yeah, and so
Exactly.
you know, as long as the elders understand that it's the energy is focused on true change and not just cutting up out there, I
Yeah.
think they would be behind it. You know?
Yeah.
At
Most
least
definitely.
some of them, if not all of them, at least some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
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 oh, go ahead,
oh,
Carvel. Go
I'm
ahead.
just gonna say you only gonna get so many people. Like that's the thing about a movement. Like
Yeah.
even like back then with integration, where every black person was affected by it. Every single black person was affected by integration. Martin Luther King, you know, John Lewis, all of them, Malcolm X. They only had just a certain percentage of people. And it's always going to be like that. There's always going to be that 10% that do the work or something like that. And so that's why I
Hmm.
said we got to love on each other, because if we're loving on each other, then we're giving energy to those people who are getting out there. And then, you know, they're giving energy back to the community by bringing information back and all like that. And then changes are happening. But the fight is in the political process. Like, I'm not just one of these people like go vote, go vote, go vote. I am like that, but I'm like that because I've seen the process.
Yeah.
I didn't just have some white person or somebody else, an older black person tell me that I needed to go vote. I actually saw how people were winning these elections in different areas just with these numbers.
Yeah.
I could literally take a city council seat in Dallas right now with 2,000 people, with
Yeah.
in a certain race maybe 3,000 people.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well, Carvel, I want to add to that because it's not just voting, but it's voting policy. It's voting
yeah.
the right kind of policy in, and so that's totally different from just vote blue no matter who or something of that line of talking. It's more of we're voting for policy. We're voting certain things in. We're voting for for certain measures. We're harping on the meat and potatoes, like I said earlier.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, that's the thing about it. But you know, sometimes if polarizing somebody to come out and vote, well, you know that they look at the national stuff. Oh, Biden versus Trump. Well, yeah, I got to get out there and vote for Biden. I got to vote against Trump's ass. But we got to get them polarized just as much for the local elections. Like the local elections are what really matters. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because like we said earlier in the show, it all affects you at the local level. The change comes from your own backyard, and that's how you got to try to make and enact that change in your own backyard and in your own community. So
Yeah.
yes,
And we're leaders here in Texas. You know, if we can make some change in Texas, we might can make some real headway in the nation, you know. So
Yeah. Exactly. Set that example.
yeah, and set the tone and set the momentum, and
Yeah.
I'm all for that. And so I thank you for coming on, Carvel. I thank you for
right
coming on the
on.
show, giving us your insight, brother. It was wonderful talking to you. We're gonna put all your links in the description so anybody can find you, ask you questions, ask you what y'all are doing at top.
Right
Uh,
on.
yes, definitely.
Man, you won't find a lot on my pages, but you'll see what I'm about. And my pages, I use them to actually connect with people. So if you message me, you're gonna get a message back from me. You know, I use it as a tool to connect with people. I don't really do a lot of the posting, and I'm not up with all the memes and up with all like that. But you'll catch a little information from time to time. I'm gonna try to start sharing more for the people. So, power to the people, and that's where we got to keep it at.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Good to be with y'all, both of y'all brothers. Thank y'all so much for having me.
No problem, brother. No problem. It was great talking to you.
Right on.
So, everyone, that's our show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any uploads. Also, this Sunday, Raw Take will be broadcasting the Katy picnic, the Katy area Democratic picnic. So we're gonna be having little interviews. We're gonna have some great speakers. So y'all be sure to tune in this Sunday. Y'all can watch the Katy picnic. And y'all have a blessed day. Peace.